What is new, Speed Duel crew? This is your Speed Duel professor
coming at you with a deck profile of the Speed Duel Double Up format. You can find the information on the back of any of the paper playmats. It's basically just regular Speed Duel, but you're allowed to use more than one skill. So with this deck, it's not quite a meta deck. When I built it, I would have classified it as a semi-competitive raw yellow deck, but then I took it to locals a couple of times without even having a skill because I wasn't sure what skills I wanted to use in the deck yet. And I went 2 weeks in a row without losing a game even to some very competitive decks. So that definitely bumped it up to a obelisk blue competitive deck for me. The main difference between this and the Koala Burn one is that this is much more of a themed deck. So this one is themed around the Ishtar family. So we play a lot more Battle City cards, and we're using an Ishizu and an Odion skill, as well as most of the cards have been played by Marik. And then everything else, we try and keep it Battle City focused. Starting with our skills, these are the same skills from the other Desk Koala build. So we have As I Predicted, which both allows us to give up our battle phase to look at the top 2 cards of our deck and figure out which one we want and throw away the other. And it also gives us an alternate win condition. And then we are playing Desert Peril, which twice per duel allows us to flip all of our monsters face down, shuffle them up, and then change the battle position of one of them. Moving on to the monsters, we are playing Marik's iconic monster in Lava Golem. So in exchange for your normal summon or set that turn, you can tribute 2 of your opponent's monsters to give them a Lava Golem. And every turn that they can't deal with it, they are going to be taking 1,000 damage during their standby phases, which in a 4,000 life point format, it's going to be a lot of damage. Our next burn card is going to be Desk Koala. He pairs off with our Desert Peril skill, which allows you to flip all your monsters face down and then change the battle position of one of your monsters. So Desk Koala's flip effect is every time he flips face up, your opponent is going to take 400 life point damage for each card in their hand. So if you get him turn 1, you can actually deal 1,600 before your opponent even gets a chance to play their first card, which can be pretty devastating in a burn deck strategy. So this is one of the only non-Marik, non-Battle City cards we play, just because it's kind of too good to not play. Getting back to the Marik theme, we are playing triple Boganian. So what Boganian does is, if you can stall with different cards, every time it comes back to your turn, he is going to be dealing 600 damage to your opponent. Next up, we have an Esperoba card coming in Reflect Bounder. So Reflect Bounder, when he is attacked, your opponent is going to take damage equal to their monster's attack. And then the battle will continue like normal, and damage calculation will occur, and then Reflect Bounder will destroy himself. So good duelists and good decks can play around this card, which is why we're only going to run 1. But if he can pull off his effect, he can be pretty devastating, and also he can kind of be a way of stopping your opponent from attacking a while until they can get an out for him. Another 1 card that can be devastating is a Bandit Keith card, who is a rare hunter for Marik, so it feels appropriate. We have Blast Sphere. So if this card is attacked while face down, it'll become an equip spell on the monster that attacked it, and then on the next turn it will explode and destroy the monster that attacked it, and your opponent will take damage equal to their monster's attack, which can be a lot. A lot of players will play cards like Book of Moon, so there are ways to out Blast Sphere, so we don't want to max out on him by any means, but it is fun, and again, this is more of a themed deck than a maximum competitive deck. Next up, we're playing Double Holding Arms. So what Holding Arms does is it links itself to a monster on summon, and as long as that monster's on the field, Holding Arms cannot be destroyed by battle. So if your opponent doesn't have piercing or doesn't have removal, it can be very annoying for them. And also the monster that it is linked to cannot attack or use its effects. So this card combos off with a card that I wanted to use that Marik used in the anime, which is Hidden Soldiers. So when your opponent normal or special summoned, you can summon a level 4 or lower dark from your hand. So, for example, say they summon Snipe Hunter, you can play Hidden Soldiers, equip it with, it's not actually an equip, but attach it with your holding arms, and then Snipe Hunter's effects ends up getting negated and he can't attack. While the combo doesn't always get pulled off because there are only a couple copies of Holding Arms, and I didn't want to play more than 2, you still have plenty of level 4 lower darks in your deck, in your Koalas and your Boganians, that when they are summoned, if you already have a stall card up like Swords of Revealing Light, that can set you up for massive burn damage on the very next turn. And our last monster is not going to be a Marik card, but it's still a Battle City card. We have My Valentine's Amazoness Swordswoman. So this card basically just says anytime you would take battle damage from this card, your opponent takes it instead. So sometimes if you just need that last little bit of damage and your opponent isn't ready for it, you can normal summon Amazoness Swordswoman and swing into your opponent and deal some decent battle damage onto your opponent because they'll take it instead of you. So I think this is a pretty decent lineup of keeping it as a themed deck and in Battle City and as much Marik as possible. Moving on to our spells, we are playing Triple Book of Moon, not only to be able to get Desk Koala off more than once, but also our biggest enemies for this deck are going to be our Snipe Hunters and our Dark Magician, which take out back row and go for massive damage quickly. So we want to stop cards like Breaker the Magical Warrior, Dark Magic Attack, getting the Search from Dark Magician decks, or Snipe Hunter being able to use his effect. If we Book of Moon those monsters before they get a chance, then we should be sitting pretty. Next, we are maximizing on our Swords of Revealing Light, just because in this deck we are trying to use this top row to really burn our opponent as much as possible. And we're not building, this is not our meta version of the deck, so if our opponent has Spell Canceller, they have Spell Canceller. So on that note, we are also playing 3 Mask of the Accursed. So what Mask of the Accursed does, so it's similar to Holding Arms in the fact that it'll equip to a monster and stop it from attacking. It doesn't stop the effects, but every turn that your opponent can't deal with it, when it comes back to your standby phase, your opponent's going to take 500 burn every turn that they can't deal with the monster. This also combos off very well with Lava Golem. So if you play Lava Golem and then equip it with Mask of the Accursed or Swords of Revealing Light, they'll either take 1,000 damage from Swords plus Lava Golem, or they'll take 1,500 from Lava Golem plus Mask of the Accursed. Now for our limit 1-ofs, even though Zoma the Spirit probably in general will usually deal more burn damage, I wanted to keep it in theme of the Mariks and the Ishtars. So we are playing 1 Nightmare Wheel, which is very similar to Mask of the Accursed, but it's a trap card version of it. So it equips to a monster, that monster can't attack. And each of, I think it's your turns, or your opponent is going to take 500 effect damage. So again, another card that can combo off really well with your Lava Golem. And this card is just a little bit more in theme with Marik Ishtar. We are still running the 1-drop Hole of Spikes. So this card, when a monster is summoned, if it attacks on the same turn that it's summoned, you'll destroy it and inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the original attack of that monster. Which, if you can catch your opponent off guard even just one time, a lot of times that extra burn damage is enough to win you the game. We are going triple Wabaku because, again, if your opponent has Jinzo, they have Jinzo. But this is really good for protecting Boganian for multiple turns, protecting a Desk Koala so you can flip it again on the next turn, or stopping a Lava Golem from beating over your own monsters, so you can get another 1,000 damage off with your Lava Golem. We are playing 1 Quaking Mirror Force. Quaking Mirror Force isn't as good in this deck as other decks because we have a lot of equip cards like Mask of the Accursed, Nightmare Wheel, Holding Arms, and the like. So we really don't want our opponent's monsters to be face down a lot of the time. But if we pull it off early or against a battle deck that would have the chance of destroying us in one turn, it can set us up for forcing our opponent to play into our Lava Golem, which is definitely something that is worth trying to get them to do, is to make them summon a second monster, which cards like Holding Arms, Mask of the Accursed, and Nightmare Wheel also help us enable. We have our Hidden Soldiers that I talked about earlier, which can help you summon Holding Arms to help negate a monster's effect and stop it from attacking. Can also help you summon a Boganian or Duskclaw set up for more burn. And mostly just it's one of Marik's cards that I've always wanted to use in a combo, and it works pretty well in this deck because we have so many darks. Last but not least is probably my favorite card in the deck. So Judgment of Anubis, kind of similar with Quaking, where I don't remember anybody in the anime using these cards specifically, but they do kind of feel very Egyptian, which, since we're doing the Ishtar family, feels very appropriate. So what the Judgment of Anubis does is, if your opponent uses a spell card to try and destroy one of your spell or trap cards, you discard a card to negate the activation and destroy it, and then you get to destroy one of their face-up monsters and deal damage equal to that monster's attack. So not only can it protect some of your very important spell cards, like your Swords of Revealing Light or whatever, it also can help you deal some pretty massive burn damage. So I had one match in a tournament where this single card actually won me the game 2 of the match, where I had already won game 1. So my opponent was playing Ancient Gears. I had set this up on the second turn. They had fusion summoned into their ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, which has, I think, 4,400 attack. They tried to use Mystical Space Typhoon to destroy something. I don't remember which card it was. I feel like it was maybe Swords of Revealing Light. And then I flipped my Judgment of Anubis, negated the Mystical Space Typhoon, and then when I destroyed their ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, it did 4,400 effective damage, which was the first time I was ever able to deal the entirety of the damage from the duel from, I think, one card probably ever, but definitely from burn damage with Judgment of Anubis. So if you need a second to take a screenshot, I'm going to move on to the fusion and the side. Moving on to the extra here, we are playing a Waking the Dragon package, which again for us the most important one here is Destiny and Dragoon, who can destroy a monster on the field and deal effect damage equal to the attack the monster had on the field. We are playing one Ojama King if we can get the turn 1 lock off. Thousand Eyes Restrict for the control. Arcana Night Joker for the big body and protection. Cyberblader for the control, and Cyber End Dragon for the large attack with piercing. In order to pull that off, we need our double the Waking the Dragon. And then we are playing double Mind Crush, because again, our probably biggest weaknesses are Snipe Hunter and Dark Magician. But if somebody is playing a hyper consistent meta build of those decks, and they're playing one that's in this meta category, they are probably just going to beat us a significant number of times, which is why this one is not in the same category as those decks. We are playing an extra Quaking Mirror Force in the side, and one Exchange of the Spirit. So Exchange of the Spirit, if we have 15 more cards in our graveyard, we can use this skill to banish this card from our graveyard to swap the deck and the graveyard for each player. Which can really shift the tide of the duel. And again, for people who cannot afford or don't like playing Waking the Dragon as a target, I do like to give alternative options. For this deck, because it's slightly more casual than the other build, and we have our limit 3s and limit 1 taken care of, if I was going to replace the Waking the Dragon, I would probably put in double Allure, since we have so many dark monsters in this deck. The reason I didn't put it in the main deck is because, again, I wanted this to be a little bit more themed to Marik Ishtar's cards. And he didn't really, I don't remember him at least playing Allure of Darkness in the anime. Even though I know a lot of these other ones he also didn't play in the anime, but they feel, we have an Ishizu card here, which is an Ishtar. They lived in Egypt. We got the sands here. The Millennium Idol holders could usually mind crush, and this kind of feels like them living underneath, and when their living place was unearthed, they woke the dragon of Marik's alter ego. So these cards still kind of feel like in theme, even though they aren't necessarily actually cards that were played by any of them. As far as combos with this deck go, this deck is pretty linear. You're basically just wanting to use as many burn cards as possible. So your main goal is either to get somebody like Deskawala or Boganian. With Deskawala, when you put him on the field, and you can actually put him face up or face down with your Desert's Peril. The first time you get him, it doesn't matter. So you put him on the field, and you use your Desert's Peril, which has a twice per duel effect. You flip all your monsters face down, shuffle them up, and then you can change the battle positions of one of them. So you flip them face up, and if it's on the first turn, you're dealing 1,600. And then you can do it again on a future turn if he's still on the field. And then you play cards like your Book of Moon to flip them back face down to try and get some more burn damage. Or you play a card like Penguin Soldier to bounce him back to the hand to use him again. And then as far as other combos go, the last combo that I think is really worth talking about is when you give your opponent a Lava Golem on their side of the field, combined with a Penguin Soldier. If you have Penguin Soldier on your field, what you can do is when Penguin Soldier is either attacked, or if you choose to flip them face up yourself, you can target two of your opponent's monsters. Or if you're doing it yourself, you can actually target Lava Golem and Penguin Soldier, and both get bounced back to the hand, whichever your two targets are. So if he was getting attacked, you could target two of your opponent's monsters, bounce them back to the hand, but Lava Golem actually comes back to your own hand. And then it puts the threat of your opponent that if they ever summon two monsters again, they're going to get Lava Golemed. And what that does for you is if they can only summon one monster at a time, as long as you can keep one monster on the field at a time, it's going to be really hard for them to deal damage to you without getting Lava Golem themselves.